Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, specifically House of Zemeckis, Robert Zemeckis. And tonight we are talking about 1994's Forrest Gump. We are continuing our journey into Zemeckis' work of the 90s, and I am very, very much excited to talk about this tonight. I feel almost lighter, kind of like a feather floating through the air. That's how joyful I am tonight. And, we promise not to leave you like halfway through the podcast like Jenny does, but we will stay with you the entire time. And my name is Tristan Ardell, and with me as always is the man who has a surprisingly similar voice, but yet loves to teach little kids with leg braces how to dance, John Mills.
Okay.
And also joining us is the one and only Lieutenant Darren Moser, who is wearing blue stockings for some reason. He's just constantly wearing blue pantyhose. And but it's neither here nor there. And this is an audio medium, so you have to rely on me to tell you these things. But regardless, this was written by Winston Groom and Eric Roth, starring the one and only Tom Hanks, America's dad. And I am ready to get right into it. How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm interested to get into this specifically because Forrest Gump is one of those movies that's such a touchstone, but I haven't had like a discussion about it in a long time because, at this point it's 30 years ago and it's like, it's hard to believe that much time has passed. And it's one of those movies where you can't really recall a time when Forrest Gump wasn't a cultural thing. Like everybody knows Forrest Gump, like even people who were born after us, like, there's still Bubba Gump Shrimp Company at City Walk here at Universal in Orlando. And I did probably over in Hollywood too. And it's crazy because, you just think about it and it's like, this is such an incredible film. Like it puts into perspective why everybody forgets that he did Death Becomes Her between Back to the Future Part 3 and Forrest Gump. Like that in your brain, you just sort of short circuit and you could come right to this one.
Darren, when was the first time you saw this? Do you remember?
Oh gosh. So 94. Yeah. This probably would have been like a rental, like definitely a Blockbuster rental. It might have even been a double VHS. It's a fairly long movie. I mean, it's not 3 hours, but it's, 2.5, 2:20.
No, this wasn't a double VHS.
Yeah.
No, they would have been able to do this on long play or super long play. This wouldn't have been a short play VHS, but long play could have covered this.
Okay. Well, but just like John stated, this was fun to revisit because I cannot remember the last time I watched this movie. It is again one of those touchstones, but you kind of internalize your memory of it, so you don't feel like, oh, I got to watch this over and over. So I was glad to revisit it because I think I remembered the plot in broad brushstrokes, but I did not remember a lot of the detail. And that this is not one it's one I'm glad that I didn't leave to, oh yeah, I've seen it. My memory's good enough, because it was not good enough to remember all the finer points of this movie.
When I was, so this came out in 90, what did I say?
94.
94. Yeah. This came out in 94.
Yeah.
So I was 8 years old when this came out. And I remember the first time I attempted to watch this. I was over at my aunt's house and the whole family was over. I don't know why we were over, but like we were just having to get together. We were eating, we were enjoying ourselves. And somebody said like, hey, let's keep this party going. Nobody wanted to go home. Let's pop in a movie. And so they popped in Forrest Gump on VHS and we all started watching it. And I'm 8 years old and I'm enjoying it. And then all of a sudden we get to him in the army and they throw him the Playboy. And then everybody just kind of looks at me. And then we're like, well, let's see where this goes. And they made it to the dorm room scene. And that's when my aunt just hit stop and said, you know what? Let's have Tristan watch something else in the bedroom. And so they put on Home Alone 2. I remember this like it was yesterday. And so I was in the bedroom on my aunt's waterbed, floating up and down, watching Home Alone 2. And everybody else was in the living room watching Forrest Gump.
See, it's fascinating to me because I saw this in the movie theater, and there were people at the time who were, full on young adults where you had to sort of like elbow them and be like, that's what just happened in the dorm room scene. And they're like, oh, and it was like, yeah. Nudge, nudge. That's what just happened.
It was very subtle
like,
and downplayed.
So like, I there's a part of me that's like, I don't know if 8-year-old Tristan would have necessarily picked up on it. Like, it wasn't in your brain to go there necessarily. And, but I mean, there we go. A science experiment that will never come to pass, all thanks to the Riddell family robbing me of that social experiment. So thanks in retrospect. So there you go.
And after, I have no memory of watching it after that. I've watched it several times, but I don't remember my first real time of watching that movie because for some reason that was such a formative moment. It still makes me laugh. But
yeah,
okay, so
that's great. But it's fascinating to me. You fixate on that first viewing, like it's like you've seen it all before, but like every time you think of the movie, you think of that first viewing. That's kind of beautiful, what I think of. Really. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
So okay, I want to first talk about the character of Forrest. I want to talk about Tom Hanks's performance. How he's an accidental witness to history. Kind of sometimes people feel like he's a blank slate. And I don't mean that in like he's not really there, but like we project a lot onto him. And so, Darren, what do you think about Tom Hanks's performance of this? Because the studio thought his accent was ridiculous and they wanted him to get rid of it. And Zemeckis is like, no, it's going to work. It's going to work. What did you think of his accent?
I didn't have a problem with the accent because honestly, he talks mostly through narration. He probably has more lines in narration and voiceover than actual dialogue in scenes. So it wasn't jarring, but as far as the just performance, this was the first time, again, watching it in a long time. And nowadays, I think Hollywood and writers and audiences are a little more sensitive towards the popular actor playing a slow character. Like, that is definitely not in vogue nowadays. I think it might have peaked with like radio and things like that. And now it's almost like an SNL sketch is the only time you're going to see something like that. So to that being said, I didn't have a problem with that part of the performance, but it was one of the parts that I felt did kind of age the film a little bit. And that was just for me. I don't know if that came across to you guys on this rewatch.
Yeah, I don't know if I can honestly assess it from that perspective because it's just the movie is what it is. So anything I overlay on top of that is, I guess just in my brain, I just immediately consider it moot, right? I think that the accent that he uses is, I think it's perfectly appropriate. Like it's got this. It's not even about the accent. It's that Forrest as a character, what makes him work so well is he's a child. He's the eternal child, but in a very positive way. And so the movie also never ever takes the stance that he's at a disadvantage to the world or anything. He's the wise character. He's the loving character. He's the accepting character. He's the one that never sees the way other people see, with labels or judgment or anything like that. If anything, I think that Hanks's vocal performance actually puts the audience at ease to understand and accept that positive childlike nature of Forrest. The reason he's a beloved character is because he sounds like somebody that you want to give a hug to, that you would love if you just spent some time with him. So, I mean, I'm glad Zemeckis fought for the accent. I mean, anything else, you could make an argument that it's it's an amplified Southern accent, and that maybe plays into some, underlying prejudices that people might have about people in the South or something. But like even that, like that's sort of like shoveling onto it. I think at its core is just that Hanks sounds childlike through the movie. And I think that's why the movie works so well and hits the heartstrings so effectively.
Apparently, the accent is based off of young Forrest's real life accent, like the actor who played young Forrest, because initially Tom Hanks was going to do something much more subtle or kind of like ease into it or have it kind of disappear as time went on. And he started interacting with young Forrest and Michael Connor Humphreys. And he said he was talking to Zemeckis. He's like, why don't I just do that accent? Because I think Humphreys couldn't change his voice, and because he was, he was a young kid at the time, and so Hanks is like, how about I just change my voice to match the kid? And it worked out, and so it was Hanks's instinct to do that, and so he just spent a lot of time with Humphreys, and that's what he sounds like. I thought that was really interesting when I read that.
That is, and it is like this is the one where Philadelphia was considered a fluke in terms of Hanks, getting the Oscar and giving that performance. Having gone through the time, Hanks wins for Philadelphia, and it was this feeling of like, wow, the comedic actor took a big swing and he won. What are the odds? And then this comes out, and it's like, this is the one that cements where it's like, oh, no, he's actually a great actor. It's not just a comedic actor took a chance. Like this moment in time is where Hanks is like, there's no looking back toward comedy. Like he's just cemented as the serious actor from this point forward.
Yeah, I think the only thing he dabbles in is like romantic comedy, like You've Got Mail or things like that. But yeah, everything after this is... or Toy Story. I mean, you could say comedy as well, but Paul 13, Saving Private Ryan, Castaway, you're all acting chop type movies.
Yeah, I mean, he's not doing Joe versus the Volcano or The Burbs or Bachelor Party anymore after this movie. Like that's in the rear view. He's done at that point. And I think Tristan, that story you share that's the behind the scenes Hanks that the people like me who regarded him simply as a quote unquote comedic actor only, we didn't see those things back then. We didn't understand that he was an actor working behind the scenes. And that's a very thoughtful story, what you just shared. So it makes sense.
So what did you guys think of him being an accidental witness to history? Like that's kind of the shtick of the movie. Like it's hard to say like, oh, what did you think about that? Because that was a cornerstone of the plot and the tale, like from, Watergate to Elvis to, like so many things, like, like meeting all the presidents, which we'll talk about later as we talk about the CGI. John, did that land for you? Did you feel like, okay, like, could one guy really witness all this stuff, or did you find it charming? What did you think?
I found it charming because, again, it's the story of somebody who experiences history the right way, quote unquote, right? He doesn't have an air about, I went through this or I went through that. And you see everybody else around him going through history and they're reacting in different ways. And if anything, Forrest is the most emotionally well equipped because he goes through all of these situations, but it doesn't change him. And it's not, I'm not saying that in a way to, obviously demean anything or anything like that. I'm just saying like Forrest is that ideal of, I went through a thing and I was able to contextualize it, compartmentalize it, and keep moving. And, you see from the very first lessons that his mom gives him that he's the perfect guy to have gone through all of these things. Is it a shtick? I don't know if I would call it that. I mean, yeah, it's a historical, chapter book sort of thing. And obviously it doesn't get into really the depth of these events. But I think showing how Forrest represents that we're all going through history. And like sometimes we don't realize the moments we're in, how impactful they are. Like imagine going back through this and having been somebody who lived through those times and be like, oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I was around for that. Like it's that sort of thing where so much happens in the span of your life and so much happens in the world like I was there for the fall of the Berlin Wall, but it doesn't even really come up for me too much. But when I sit down, I'm like, oh yeah, that was pretty big. That was a thing, like that sort of stuff.
Darren, okay. I feel like we need, before we get into the supporting characters, because we mentioned it, we have to talk about the special effects, because this was a big deal at the time. I remember seeing behind the scenes footage on Extra and Entertainment Tonight about how this was a big deal, about how they were using archival footage of presidents and inserting Tom Hanks digitally into the scene. And I want to know, what did you think about it at the time, and what do you think about it now?
Yeah, it was one of those things where I think at the time it was flawless. Like the moments were sporadic enough and tight enough that you weren't looking at it too close. You couldn't rewind and pause and be like, they're just stretching the pixels of the mouth, or that's the part that's being changed. You're more like, oh my gosh, he's right there. He's right behind the president. So I think that part worked, really well. I was just looking it up out of curiosity's sake, and for Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Trouble and Tribulation, which is another episode where they take characters and insert them into archival footage, but that was about 2 years after this. So this is the cutting edge of that type. And does it hold up? I think it does, as the story goes. If you look at it, 3 inches on your, 3 inches away from your high inch monitor, yeah, you're going to see the pixels move and that part, but I don't think that distracts from the story. So yeah, I think it serves the story, it serves the character, and they even kind of point at it later on when he's like, and then I met the president and went to the White House again. Like for him, it's just, like it's like the third Thursday of the month. That's when you go meet the president, of course. So it worked in that way. Although I would say what's even more impressive, and I've also seen behind the scenes on this, is Lieutenant Dan's leg removal. That was where that had to hold up in every shot in the way he moved and shifted his weight. And I think the scene that I've seen dissected the most is when he's sitting on the floor. I think he'd fallen out of his wheelchair, and he's swings his body around. And if his legs had been there, they would have gone through a small table. And that's where you're like, wait, okay, you didn't just remove it. And I think the way they accomplished that is the table wasn't there, and they added the table in post. So that, the archival footage is one thing, but the leg removal, I think, is the even grander cherry on top.
Well, and the brilliant thing is it's classic misdirection, because everybody knew that Gary Sinise's legs were being removed digitally. So we're all paying attention to the legs so they can get away with inserting the table, because we're not going to stare at the table. It's misdirection, and it's really clever. And Zemeckis is on the cutting edge. To roll it back to the discussion about the mouth movement, even back in the day, as the kids say, the mouth movement wasn't the best part of it. Like Kennedy was okay. Johnson was terrible. Nixon was fine, right? But like it's that sort of thing. But it does really shine as well with getting him inserted into the background of scenes, like the desegregation moment, and showing him behind the guy, like looking around and everything. That is a real compliment to the photography, because they got the lighting right. Because as we've all seen with plenty of blue screen, green screen, CG compositing stuff, if that lighting is not right, the character looks flat, doesn't match up right. So that's where I think they really shine, along with the legs, is they got the lighting and the film grain right. And that, I know, was a labor of love. Like getting that stuff matched was...
Yeah, the film grain, because you can't remove the film grain from archival footage. It's there.
Right.
And you can lessen it, but it'll make your digital insert stand out like a sore thumb if they don't match.
Yeah, so whoever worked on the edges of him being inserted, great job. Really well done. Well done.
I think that's a really fine point. Is like, like manipulating the presidents is fine, but inserting Tom Hanks, that's where it really shined. So, okay, Ginny, Robin Wright.
You mean
I'm
Jenny? Because that's how I said the name Jenny
Yes.
for
It's so
months
hard.
after this.
The poor women who went by Jenny in the 90s, those poor women,
They're doomed.
because there's no way there's not a single possibility that they weren't called Jenny at least 12 times a month. So I'm a big Robin Wright fan. You guys know this. I felt like she killed it in this role, because like when you're going up against Tom Hanks doing something as different as this, and as something that he doesn't normally do, and yet he's still Tom Hanks. He's always Tom Hanks. It's never like he disappears in the role. But he's doing it different enough to make you believe who he's trying to be. And with Robin Wright, she doesn't have that opportunity. She doesn't get to play a completely different person. Well, that's not what I'm trying to say. Like it's not. John, what's the term I'm looking for? Like she's not. She doesn't fall into it. She doesn't.
Yeah, she's not disappearing. She's not inhabiting the character.
And that's not a knock. It's just that's the type of character it is. And she's a symbol of counterculture. Going in and out of history as well, and hitchhiking, going through the hippie movement. Like an anti-government stance and things like that. And so, John, what do you think about her performance? What did you think about her character? Did you have sympathy for her towards the end?
Of
Were you
course.
frustrated with her throughout the movie? Like, tell me about that journey you had with her.
I want to say, first and foremost, I hate this sort of modern thing of people coming at it as like Jenny's the real villain. No, that bit was tired the second that somebody rolled out with it. It drives me nuts. Jenny they establish what she goes through as a kid, and the way that she's behaving is a very well established behavior pattern in somebody who's gone through that type of abuse. And I think it really gets to the point of one of the lessons of the character of Forrest Gump is that he never does anything but love her and accept that he's just always going to give her a chance to make it right. He's always going to be there for her. He's always going to love her. He's always going to see the best in her. And what an incredible lesson to put out there to say, look, you're not going to be defined by the times you screw up. Just keep getting back up and I will be there for you. I will love you. And it's beautiful. Like this other stuff that you're laying on there. I think additionally, Zemeckis and the script and Zemeckis, the film is making an interesting comment, I think, that gets overlooked a lot, that there are sort of like these repercussions and a lot of stuff that we go through in history and, generational and cultural stuff is sort of like this collective processing of what happened in our childhoods or in our lifetime sort of thing. Right? Jenny is a reaction to what her father was. And it's sort of this thing where it's like that post-war generation raising kids did, they were processing their own things and their own struggles and taking it out. And I just think that Jenny's an incredibly layered character. And I think that she's very much presented with a very sympathetic approach in the film. And I give Zemeckis a lot of credit for that. When he shows Jenny going on her benders or bouncing around, she's a person trying to find her identity. And the character that comes to mind actually is Don Cheadle's character from Boogie Nights a few years later, where he's just going around inhabiting all of these different personae because he's unsure of who he is. And then at the end, it's somebody loving him that makes him who he could fully be. And it's like, I know that's a weird comparison to draw, but there are similarities in that arc. And I think, I think Robin Wright's wonderful in this. And I think the way the movie approaches her character is wonderful.
Darren, what are your feelings? I don't even know if I can comment anymore because, John, I think you wrapped it up pretty well there.
No, I think the only thing I would add is as much as she seems to conveniently or inconveniently float into Forrest's life or I guess show up, there are times when you realize, well, she's also living these events just like he is. I think of the rally at the Washington Monument. Like, she was there. It wasn't like, oh, Forrest is going to be there, I'm going to show up now. I'm going to this event and we happen to be there together. So I try to remind myself it's not just, oh, I'm going to go visit Forrest moment. It's, I'm living through history as much as he is. There are times when she is seeking him out and vice versa. But yeah, it honestly, just look at it this way. Can you imagine this story without Jenny? I can't. Like, there's something gravitational about her in his life that adds a lens to things, adds a constant to things. I think it would be a lesser movie if you were like, oh, just let him go through history. He doesn't, and maybe he meets her towards the end instead of a childhood friend. I don't think that would have worked.
Yeah, I agree. This is, as he talks about at the beginning, they go together like peas and carrots. Like, they establish from the get-go that they come as a pair, and, they float in and out of each other's lives. And I think that's what makes it, that's part of the reason why it's so interesting, is because sometimes we have relationships like that where, whether they're romantic or friendships or family, years can go by, many, many years can go by. And yet we are drawn to each other, and when we come back together, we fall in line. We're just like, oh man, it's almost like no time has passed. And I like that aspect of it with Forrest and Jenny. And John, I really agree with what you're talking about. How, like, her type of behavior is well documented with people who have had this kind of trauma and this kind of abuse in their childhood. And I absolutely love her introduction, because the actress who plays young Jenny was a perfect get.
Oh, yes.
Good Lord. I can't even imagine a better casting than that, because she looks so beautiful and so innocent and so lovely and just so emotional and powerful, just in this tiny little body. And yeah. I love that, like, when we hear Tom Hanks say, like, she was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and we see young Forrest's reaction, like he's portraying that.
He's thunderstruck.
Like, oh my God, what is in front of me?
Yeah.
And yeah, so nothing but love for Jenny. And because when she screws up or does something that the audience doesn't want her to do, it's not like, oh, I hate this character or anything like that. It's very much oh, that's a shame. You just feel
like if you hear a family member going through that, you react a different way, and you're like, oh, I don't want that for you. I want better for you, instead of, oh man, look, she's ruining her life. It's like, no, there's the sympathies baked in from the first time you see her on screen.
Yeah. Tristan, I like that you point out the young actress who plays young Jenny, because there's also there's a fragility to her that from that first moment you see her. And it's, I don't know what she ever went on to do afterward, but I hope she had great success doing, whatever she wanted to do, and I think that what I think is beautiful, to speak to your point, Tristan, about how the peas and carrots thing can go in many different types of relationships. I think Michael T. Williamson as Bubba is, it's easy to talk about Robin Wright and Tom Hanks and Gary Sinise, who, talk about a calling card movie. Like this Gary Sinise was a name after this movie. Everybody fell in love with Lieutenant Dan. Everybody's heart broke for Lieutenant Dan. Everybody enjoyed going on that journey with Lieutenant Dan. But Michael T. Williamson, what a just powerhouse secret weapon performance. And seeing him paired up with Forrest and seeing how they meshed. I have to give credit to Williamson and Hanks for finding that chemistry. I believed in Bubba and Forrest. I completely accept every time I watch this film that these are two people who belong together. And I know that you said earlier, and I agree with it, you never lose Hanks in this. But the scenes with Bubba, I lose Hanks. And I give Williamson a whole lot of credit, because he finds the energy that just transforms it in such a way that I only see Forrest and Bubba. And I think probably that's why I gravitate toward their relationship a lot when I think about this film.
No. Yeah, I agree. There's also the tragicness. When he says, things like, if I had known that was the last time we were going to talk, or, he and I should have gone together into the business, but instead he died there in Vietnam. You're just like, oh man. And not that, I don't personally know anyone who died in Vietnam, but there are tons of people who do, who can relate to that, to people who never made it home, and there's so many characters in this that you can imprint on or imprint a friend on. And that, I think, is one of the strengths of the movie overall, especially Bubba.
Yes, especially Bubba. But you can't overlook Lieutenant Dan. Lieutenant Dan is, for the longest time, I had a friend, Tom, who for years after this movie, whenever I would see him at some point in the night, he would go, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream, Lieutenant Dan. And he'd like be walking up to me. And it was like, it was almost like a signal, like, it's time to leave. Come on. Like, he was like, Lieutenant Dan, ice cream. And I was like, okay. Gotcha, Tom. Gotcha.
I think that, that's one thing that we need to talk about, the cultural impact of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because we all have moments like that. And I think, like, my family, I think the one that we have quoted the most is, she tasted like cigarettes.
As an ex-smoker, that's that line made a lot of us laugh in the movie theater. Let me tell you. Yeah.
And of course, I think the most ubiquitous one is "Run, Forrest, Run."
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's probably the quote of the movie. Do you disagree, Dan?
Almost. I think you're right. I think "Life is like a box of chocolates" is also right up there. Or even just the way you pronounce Janae or Lieutenant Dan. Like, there are so many. It's weird because they're quotes, but they're also just things you say, and then everyone goes like, oh yeah, Forrest Gump. Like, it's like you're bringing everyone back to that moment, which I know is obviously what a quote does, but it was something different. It was a touchstone way in the 90s. It was special.
Yeah, I still remember in the late 90s working at a store, and I was like running in from like icy rain, and somebody who worked in the store with me was in the parking lot, and I didn't know it. And I start running to get into the store because, the icy rain is coming down and everything. And I just hear from across the parking lot, "Run, Forrest, run." And like everybody in the parking lot has a laugh. I think "Life is like a box of chocolates" came out of the gate strong, but I think over time, "Run, Forrest, run" has become the go-to. I think it's just overtaken it.
I think the first time I heard it used in pop culture was in Fight Club. I think that was the first time.
You made it. Yeah, when another movie references you, then you're really a part of the conversation.
That means Forrest Gump exists in the Fight Club universe. Those people have seen that movie. I know that's a ridiculous thing to say, but it's true.
No, it isn't. No, they absolutely exist. Yeah, they exist in our world.
And IKEA. No.
Yeah.
So, okay, what else would you say has become a cultural touchstone of this movie? Like, obviously, like his accent, the way he says certain words, like Jenny and Lieutenant Dan and things like that. "Run, Forrest, Run," "Life is a box of chocolates." What else is there with
this movie score by Alan Silvestri has a cue that has been used in so many frickin' trailers over time. Universal Pictures presents, like you hear it go, and it still gets you. You still get like the goosebumps, but you're like, "Oh, you're cheating. I don't want to see your movie now because you're cheating. You're trying to trick me into seeing this. This movie's probably not very good." But yeah, that one cue where the music swells, da, 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 da.
So much so, watching it in this movie, I was like, "Oh, so that's right. It came from this." Like, it's now so ubiquitous. Like, I was almost pulled out of the movie, being like, wait, that's right. It came from this. Not they used it and then they put it in. It's, oh man, it was like that and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. They were like everywhere and used in every trailer.
Do you guys remember when The Last Samurai music was used in every single trailer that had anything to do with fighting or non-America?
Yes. Yes. Hey, listen, it is an absolute tip of the hat to Silvestri, because he has this score. He worked with Zemeckis on Back to the Future. Like those are two absolutely iconic themes right there. Like
I was going to say,
Lord.
just those two right there would cement you in history.
And then he goes on and he does the Avengers theme. It's like people sleep on his name. Like Silvestri is like legit big influence, but people would rather talk about, Zimmer and Williams and stuff like that. But like
those were the two I was about to utter.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's Williams and Zimmer. That's all everyone talks about, Williams and Zimmer. And, it's Silvestri. Yeah, it's true. A lot of people don't put him in the running where he needs to be.
To answer your question, Tristan, I think the one other touchstone was, maybe it's just for me, but when anytime I have to like list something, I think of Bubba when he's listing all the ways you can make shrimp.
Yes.
And he's just
yes.
And I just kind of get into that drawl, like, it's like shortcut, long cut, fast cut, slow fade, make it dissolve. Like you just kind of go into that drawl like he does because it's a montage and you don't know all the ways of shrimp, and maybe he doesn't, but it's funny every time.
Every time we're talking about dinner and and my wife will mention like shrimp as an option, I immediately will start going shrimp gumbo, shrimp etouffee, shrimp. I'm like, I guess that's about it. And it's just like, yeah, you can't help it. It's a reflex, like a Simpsons quote. Oh my goodness.
So, okay. One common criticism, because we've been loving on this movie pretty hard, with good reason. But one common criticism is that it has an oversimplified view of history, kind of a conservative nostalgia of the past, and one criticism that I've found very interesting, and I heard this from a couple of film students in my younger days who were saying like, oh, it's pro-establishment. And the reason why, and I can see your face, John, and I'm going to explain myself. And I'm not advocating this. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying the theory is out there, is that Forrest Gump survives and becomes a millionaire and has all these great things happen to him because he only does what people tell him to do. Only what people in authority tell him what to do. And I find that interesting. Like, don't discount it right away, boys.
What? I didn't even say anything.
I can see your faces. The listeners can't, but I can see your faces.
Okay, listeners, I just want to say that he's impugning our character right now. I'll speak up for both myself and Darren, but
so I want if you disagree with that, that's fine. But I want to hear it because I think it's interesting because his football coach loves him because he just runs fast, and when they tell him to run, he runs. When they tell him to stop, he stops. His drill sergeant loves him because he's so freaking simple and he does what he's told. He runs away in battle because Ginny told him that's what he needed to do. He goes and talks at the Washington Monument and makes history because somebody told him that he needed to get in line and do it. He becomes a ping pong star for those same reasons. He just, the list just goes on that like pretty much the only thing he does of his own accord is run.
Yeah.
During like across the country.
Yeah. And love Jenny and forgive Jenny and be there for his friends. And the thing is, people, okay, I'm going to start with the particular and then I'm going to zoom out. Okay. Yes. Jenny tells him to run, but he runs and he runs back. He keeps running back. Okay. And yes, his running is a touchstone of his, but that scene in particular, Forrest made it. Forrest was clear and he turned around and he went back and he kept running, and he kept running specifically because he wouldn't leave people behind. He did the right thing. And I think if anything, moving out to the macro, he does stuff that people tell him. He's the feather on the wind. That's the whole point of seeing the feather at the beginning and the end. Is Forrest's life is he's just where he needs to be when history needs him to be there. And in the context of people, quote unquote, telling him what to do, he finds a way unintentionally, just because he has such a good heart, of doing the right thing with what he's being told to do. And I think that what happens with a movie like Forrest Gump is an inverse of what happens with a movie that I always love to bring up at every chance, Star Trek V. Okay? Let me explain. Star Trek V.
Longtime listeners will
Tristan's
know.
eyes are rolling.
Yeah.
This is a common occurrence.
Star Trek V was curb stomped when it came out. And you can say with good reason, okay? People absolutely made fun of it. They mocked the hell out of it. When I was in line for Star Trek VI after school, people were still referencing how much they hated Star Trek V. It was a laughingstock. And then you flash forward 30 years and Screen Rant and all of these sites are like, maybe it's time to rethink Star Trek V. Maybe it's not so bad, guys. The inverse is always going to happen where something like Forrest Gump, which is a huge powerhouse, beautiful film, eventually somebody's going to put their hands on their hips and they're going to go, well, if you really think about it, shut up. Like I hate that sort of trend. It's just over time.
I call it the Titanic effect.
I love it. I'm stealing it, and we're going to use that, the Titanic effect. I love that. You are absolutely gosh darn right. Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I even saw an article in researching this of people, I guess they re-asked people who voted to give it Best Picture, and a lot of them were like, well, we actually probably should have given it to Shawshank Redemption that year. Like, and I'm like, well, sorry, you didn't. You gave it to Forrest Gump.
Right.
Like, that's what you did, own it. But to your question, Tristan, I mean, I can see the pieces on the board that you're describing with him being told what to do, but I totally echo what John says of we see enough of his childhood and his mother's upbringing of him that we know this is a character that strives to do the right thing. And he is a fictional character, so he's going to be in these crazy situations. And of course the plot is going to have him do the right thing. But yeah, his running is for the right thing, even when it's not always running away. It's running across America just because it's doing all of that. So yes, he is told a lot and directed, but I wouldn't go so far as to say he's not even his own character. It's if a guy hits your girl, we will all want to react like he does. We all want to do the right thing in those moments. But of course it's set up that way. He's the main character. So, but yes, it's let's in 20 more years we'll look back again and be like, well, let's take another crack at Forrest Gump. And
it turns out it is a great film after all. And listen, 94 was a weird year at the Oscars. Absolutely everybody actually saw every film up for Best Picture. Like it was one of those weird lightning in a bottle types of years. And it still blows my mind how strong that year was. I mean, Shawshank Redemption is also an incredible film. Pulp Fiction's also an incredible, good Lord, out of the gate, man. It's crazy how strong 94 was. But Forrest Gump, that was the movie everybody talked about. I knew people who didn't like Pulp Fiction. I knew people who were meh on Shawshank Redemption. But I never encountered a single person who walked out of the theater of Forrest Gump and was like, that kind of sucked.
I'm looking at the list right now. So top of the list is Forrest Gump, of course, of movies that came out in 94. Shawshank.
Yep.
Pulp Fiction. The Lion King.
Yep.
Leon the Professional. Clerks. Four Weddings and a Funeral.
Yep.
Interview with the Vampire. Dumb and Dumber. Ace Ventura, The Mask, Hudsucker Proxy, Ed Wood, Speed, River Wild, Miracle on 34th Street, The Crow, Little Giants, The Santa Claus, Black Beauty.
It was a hell of a year, man.
Gosh.
It was a hell of a year for movies. It really...
Airheads, Thumbelina, Richie Rich, D2, Mighty Ducks, Little Rascals, Three Ninjas Kick Back. Okay, we're starting to lose steam here.
Yeah, you're definitely... let's pull back. Let's stop here. Let's stop here. Yeah.
But yes,
made it far enough in the
all
list.
that to say, John is right.
Oh,
also,
wow.
so this had a
I want
budget
that
of 55
isolated.
million.
I need a new ringtone, please. I need that as a ringtone, please. I beg you.
Okay, so the budget was 55 million, and the box office return was 678.
I made a couple of bucks.
That's insane.
$94. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Okay, I'm gonna Darren, can you look that up for me?
We got to know. We got to know
how much is 678 million in today's money.
And the answer should depress everybody as we realize what inflation has done.
So during production, the studio wanted them to cut lots of stuff, saying make it shorter. This doesn't work. I can't remember exactly what they wanted him to cut. A lot of the running they wanted him to cut, which honestly, him running across America, I probably could have cut that too.
The song is really good, so no.
But they wanted to cut a lot. They even sent a stooge to stay on set to make sure that he stayed on budget. And Zemeckis and Hanks both gave up big portions of their salary in order to make the movie happen in the reduced budget. But they did it by getting points on the back end.
Smart. So smart.
Hanks got way more than his original salary by getting points on the back end. I think Hanks walked away with $70 million in $1994 for this movie.
So with 678 million in 1994 is $1.48 billion in 2025. This is
made
Avengers
more than a
level
Thor movie.
money. Yeah. It's and that's not even counting for like the how far your dollar went in 94. Like that money's just worth more. It's just, oh my gosh, so much money.
It's not just worth, it's also average price of a ticket back then.
Price
It was
of things. Yeah. Think of how many
way
tickets you had to
lower.
sell to make.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
So even more people saw it than what we're. Yeah. Anyway, you guys understand.
Yeah,
the listeners understand inflation.
Listen, man. When a movie like this comes along and you watch it with your girlfriend at the time, and I mean, listen, that scene still to this day when his son, played by a then unknown, who went on to do great things
Haley
himself,
Joel
Osment, when he says, I love you, Dad. Like, oh my God. Like, I remember being in the movie theater with my girlfriend at the time, and like the scene's building, and I'm like, don't you do this to me. No, we haven't been going out that long. And he's like, I love you, Dad. Boom. I just started bawling. Like, it just absolutely like a shot to the heart. And yeah, so everybody walks out. I was like, you got to see this film, man. You got to see this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. What do we say? Nail the ending. And I mean, that's half the film right there. They did it.
Yep.
All right. What a point to end and to move on to our personal ratings. Darren, I always make you go first. How many feathers in the wind are you giving this movie?
Oh, the CGI feather. Yes. As it tumbled around. It's a ubiquitous movie. It's a movie that is just will be, was, and forever will be. So you have to give it 5 for a bump, I think, for its cultural touchstoneness. I will say that was a factor of my rating. Overall, like it's a great story. This is still, though, a movie that I'm probably going to watch once a decade. This is not oh man, I want to have the feels again or something like that. So that doesn't diminish it at all. It's just a different kind of movie that you watch in, decade by decade. And I gotta, in a couple of years, we'll cross that bridge with my younglings, and I'm sure they'll be quoting "Run, Forrest, Run" all the time after that. So 5 feathers on the wind for Darren.
John, how about you?
5, duh. I mean, like I'm sure I tipped my hand early, but like it is like we didn't even detour for anything. But I think this movie moves so fluidly, so effortlessly that I remember on this rewatch, like I had to pause it for a second. I was like, oh, I'm already 47 minutes into this. And it was like 47 minutes if it was a 30 seconds. Like you just get sucked in, and the story moves so incredibly well. Like this is mind blowing when you think about the fact that Zemeckis does the Back to the Future trilogy. He does what he does with Death Becomes Her. And then he comes 2 years later with this. Like, that's insane. Back to the Future Part 3 is 1990. Death Becomes Her is 92. Forrest Gump is 94. Like, wow. So yeah, 5.
I'm giving it 5 too. I mean, it's hard not to. Like, I could have been a jerk and said 4.5, but I'm not going to, because this is a great movie. It deserves the 5. And I could repeat myself with everything that we've said already, but it's there. Robert Zemeckis should be heralded for this movie. Like his direction, how he worked the cinematography, and the editing, and how it was almost like a storybook in the way that it was shot and edited together. That's something that we didn't really talk about, but I love the transitions, I should say, between sections and scenes, and like when he's closing his eyes and thinks really hard, and then all of a sudden we see young Forrest who opens his eyes. Just little things like that. It's just really great transitions, and you can tell that it was thought out, that it wasn't necessarily found in editing. It was like, no, this is what we're going to do to move to this section. We're going to have him wear a blue plaid shirt in this scene, and then he's going to wear something similar in the next scene in order to kind of help transition forward. It was just little things like that. This was meticulous. This was well thought out. It was exact, but yet it didn't feel cold and technical. So 5 stars, easy. Thank you guys so much for discussing this movie tonight. And Darren, what are we doing next week?
That's right. We're here still in the 90s with Robert Zemeckis. Next week, we're going to be covering 1997's Contact here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.